Take 5.
If someone wants to silently poison a man, uh, is cadmium an ideal homicidal agent, uh, or was it an ideal homicidal agent in late 70s?
I've already touched upon this, but I'll repeat what I've said. Number one, cadmium is difficult to obtain. There's no doubt about it. Arsenic is more easily available. Thallium to some extent is, but cadmium is actually difficult to obtain. And even if somebody says it's present in nickel, cadmium batteries and so on and so forth, it's difficult to extract it unless you have some specialized knowledge in chemistry. And so one of the qualities of a so-called homicidal poison is it should be easily accessible. That anyway is not. Second, it should be a poison that should be easily be able to be mixed with food or drink without raising suspicion in large quantities, or even if it's over a prolonged period of time in small quantities. I think cadmium, when we are talking about cadmium, please understand, we are not talking about the element. Much of the time heavy metal toxicity is in the form of salts. So it can be cadmium iodide, it can be cadmium chloride or cadmium sulfate. There's so many salts. Whatever it is, whether it is this or that salt, in my opinion, cadmium, almost as any form except elemental, will cause some irritation of the GI tract. That is bound to happen because it has got corrosive properties. In fact, if you take it as acute poisoning, cadmium, it causes severe corrosion, almost like you see in acids or alkalis. Person has severe GI distress. So it is not at all a poison that somebody who wants to commit homicide will select, because it can cause GI upset, and GI upset is going to be something that anybody will suspect there's something wrong here. The food that we are giving is all right. It is not food poisoning. So what is it? So an ideal homicidal poison should be something that should not really cause much by way of raising suspicion when the person is given, and even if it does cause something, it should mimic some disease so that people may think that it is because of this. Like, for instance, there are some poisons which may mimic heart disease. So you give it to somebody and he develops those kinds of symptoms. Usual thing is people will mistake that to be due to heart disease, not due to a poison. That is again an example of an ideal homicidal. Like, for instance, digitalis, a drug that is actually used for heart disease, can be used as a homicidal poison, because when you use it in overdose, it produces same kinds of heart disease manifestations. People will begin to think he is going into heart failure. Nobody will think that digitalis is being used here. So it is an ideal homicidal poison there to that extent. The cadmium doesn't fit here also, because it causes manifestation that should raise suspicion. It is not a poison that does not raise suspicions. It is like cyanide. Cyanide has got a lot of properties that make it ideal homicidal poison, but it is not preferred by an intelligent homicidal poisoner because it produces dramatic manifestations. The person starts frothing from the mouth, convulsing, goes blue, everything in our house suspicious there is something wrong here happening to this person. It will be investigated. So cadmium is one of those where if you give, I think the chances of raising suspicion that there is something amiss is much more. So 2 points already. Then third is, cadmium is a poison that has not really been administered frequently enough to know as to what is ideal dose, and if you give it chronically, what is ideal dose to be given over how much period of time. There is nothing much out there. So why would anybody pick something that he knows nothing about as to how much to give, how long to give and things like that? Very difficult. So I would say cadmium is not really an ideal homicidal poison at all. None of the heavy metals in fact are, except for one or two like thallium, not even arsenic. Cadmium, I am not sure about the taste, but definitely I think if you add it to food or water, it does alter the taste to some extent. Not like thallium, which does not alter the taste at all, not like arsenic, which may also not alter the taste. But there are so many issues here that actually mitigate against the opinion of somebody that it can be used as a homicidal poison. I don't think a person who knows his poisons will select cadmium if he wants to use it for some malicious person. It's a very unusual choice and a very, I think, illogical choice.
So during review of literature, we found one article where rats were provided continuous cadmium in water, and the study they found out that the absorption rate slowly came down, and at the end there was no absorption by the gut. And they came to a conclusion that this the poison, when it is given for a longer period in a slow dose, the body itself stops absorbing the thing. So can this also be one of the reasons where cadmium cannot be used as a poison?
That is one aspect I'm not very sure about, to be honest. And again, animal experimentation, sometimes you've got problems when you try and bring it to human beings. So since that has not been shown to happen in human beings, I would say that let us leave that aside. Possible, no doubt, I'm not saying that it is not, but I'm not sure that you can extrapolate it to humans just because you saw it in rats.
So how likely that in 1977 someone who has no medical knowledge or any chemical or pharmaceutical experience obtain, mix, administer and monitor a plant to intentionally poison a person who are always surrounded by people who are serving 24/7? Is that practically possible with cadmium?
It is possible if it is some person with that kind of absolutely, I should say, spectacular genius, not an average person. We are not talking about somebody average person at all. If you are, looking at it from that point of view, no, it is something very, very, I think, difficult to believe that there was somebody in the 1970s with that kind of extraordinary knowledge and kind of precision with which he committed this, and over a period of time nobody even suspected. There were so many people around this person who supposed to have been poisoned, and nobody had an inkling what was happening. These are all almost, it looks like a kind of a Hollywood or Bollywood pot boiler, but doesn't really look to me as if it is realistic at all. It is very far-fetched.
Because based on the book which you have written in medical toxicology, where you have written forensic issues regarding cadmium, and nowhere a chronic poisoning part is stated. Over and above, you have done a lot of studies on publications where you have said that environmental heavy metal poisoning, which is routinely found in soil, air, vegetable, milk, water, and even belts of Ganges. Can this be the high hair cadmium level be because of this environmental exposure?
Very likely. Not just environmental, there's so many confounding issues here. The fact that the hair samples have been, handed down person to person, we don't know how flawless was it, when finally it was analyzed. I have my own grave doubts that it was really as flawless as we are expected to believe. I am sure that inevitably some contamination must have occurred. And leave aside that, as you have raised, it could be due to other factors like environmental issues. Almost every one of us, hair, when we look at it, hair is something that is constantly exposed to the environment, whether it is air or even water, or sometimes even other substances, or sometimes we use chemicals on our hair or oils and things like that. However well we wash it, however infrequently we use it, there's always this issue that maybe that can influence the results. So that is why hair has lost its appeal as a biological sample for toxicological analysis. If at all you want to use it, whether you believe it or not, it is not scalp hair which is ideal. It is pubic hair, because pubic hair is not exposed to environment like head hair is. So if at all you want to do toxicological analysis, today the consensus is try to get hair from a part of the body that is not normally exposed to the environment. People go about with exposed hair on their head. People don't go about exposing hair elsewhere. You understand what I'm saying? So chances of contamination, if at all you want to select sample like that, you should be very careful where you take it from. Head hair, to me, not at all ideal, because chances of contamination very, very high. And the sources of contamination,